If you work hard, pay your bills, and still feel broke, this is going to hurt, but it might change your life. Most people think they're bad with money because they don't earn enough. That's a comforting lie. The truth is darker and far more expensive. Millions of people earn decent money and still stay poor their entire lives. Not because of fate, not because of the economy, but because of invisible budgeting mistakes they repeat every single month. These mistakes don't scream, they whisper, they feel normal. And that's why they're so deadly. The first mistake begins with a belief you were taught very early. As long as I'm not overspending, I'm fine. This mindset quietly destroys financial growth. You track expenses, you avoid luxury, you tell yourself you're being responsible. But your money has no direction, it just survives. When money has no job, it disappears. Bills take it, subscriptions drain it, small comforts consume it. What's left is never enough to build anything meaningful. Budgeting is not about restriction, it is about intention. Without intention, you are not managing money, you are reacting to it. Reaction keeps you stuck in survival mode, where every month resets to zero hope. This is where most people fall into the trap of emotional budgeting. They plan based on how they feel, not on what actually happens. They underestimate how often life interrupts. They forget annual expenses. They ignore irregular costs. Then when reality hits, the budget fails, and they blame the system instead of the assumptions. A budget that only works in perfect conditions is not a budget. It's a fantasy. Real financial control plans for chaos. If your budget doesn't include boredom, stress, emergencies, and human weakness, it will collapse, and you will go back to believing money control is impossible for you. The second mistake is even more dangerous because it feels productive, focusing only on expenses instead of cash flow. Cutting costs feels powerful. It gives instant gratification. Cancel a subscription, cook at home, skip the coffee, and suddenly you feel disciplined. But discipline without strategy becomes a ceiling. There is a limit to how much you can cut, but no limit to how much value you can create. When all your financial energy goes into shrinking your life, you train yourself to think small. You stop asking better questions. You stop looking for leverage. You become efficient at being broke. People who escape financial struggle understand one brutal truth. Wealth is not built by saving scraps. It's built by controlling direction and increasing capacity. If your budget does not include growth, it is quietly teaching you to stay exactly where you are. A plan that only protects you from losing money but never positions you to gain more is not safety. It is stagnation. Over time, stagnation feels like punishment. You work harder, yet nothing changes. That frustration leaks into every area of life. Confidence erodes, decisions become fear-based. Money becomes emotional, and emotional money decisions are almost always expensive. There is also a silent psychological cost here. When you obsess over cutting expenses, you start associating money with pain. Every purchase feels like guilt. Every desire feels irresponsible. This creates rebellion. Eventually you snap, you binge spend. You justify it as self-care or deserving a break. Then shame follows. This cycle repeats, month after month. Not because you lack discipline, but because your system is built on deprivation instead of alignment. A strong budget does not fight your humanity. It works with it. Another layer most people miss is timing. Many budgets look good on paper, but ignore when money actually moves. Rent, debt, food, transportation, these don't wait politely. If your budget doesn't respect cash timing, you end up relying on credit, overdrafts, or stress. This is how people with enough income still feel constantly behind. Timing mistakes force you into short-term decisions that create long-term damage. Interest grows, fees stack, anxiety becomes normal. You don't feel poor because of numbers, you feel poor because of pressure. And here is the painful part. These mistakes compound quietly. You don't feel the damage immediately, you just feel tired. You feel like money is always slipping through your fingers. You feel like no matter how much you learn, nothing sticks. Over years, this creates a financial identity. I'm just bad with money. That identity is expensive. It lowers standards. It kills curiosity. It convinces smart, capable people to accept financial mediocrity as a personality trait instead of a fixable system problem. Being poor is rarely about intelligence. It is about systems that were never designed to help you win. If your budgeting system only helps you survive, it will keep you exactly there. Survival feels safe, but it steals your future slowly and politely. And the longer you stay inside these mistakes, the harder it becomes to imagine a different outcome, even when it's fully possible. The third mistake is trusting leftover money instead of paying yourself first. This one sounds harmless, even logical. You tell yourself, I'll save whatever is left at the end of the month. But there is almost never anything left. Life expands to consume available money. Expenses are aggressive. They do not respect good intentions. When saving is optional, it becomes invisible. And what you don't see, you don't protect. Paying yourself last teaches your brain that your future is less important than your present comfort. It wires you to believe that security is a luxury instead of a priority. Over time, this creates financial fragility. One small emergency becomes a crisis. One missed paycheck becomes panic. You are not poor because you don't want to save. You're poor because your system makes saving the weakest decision in the room. People who build stability reverse this order. They remove choice from the equation. Savings, investing, and future-focused goals happen automatically before lifestyle spending ever gets a chance to negotiate. This is not discipline, this is design. When money moves without emotion, progress becomes boring, and boring is powerful. Wealth grows quietly, without motivation, without willpower. Meanwhile, those who rely on leftovers rely on hope. Hope is not a strategy, hope is fragile. The fourth mistake is budgeting for your current life while ignoring your future self. Most budgets are static, they assume nothing will change. Same energy, same health, same job, same responsibilities. But life is dynamic, and ignoring that is expensive. Your future self will need more money, not less. More flexibility, more margin, more protection. When your budget only supports today, you force tomorrow to pay the price. This shows up when people delay insurance, ignore retirement, or dismiss long-term planning as something for later. Later always costs more. Time is either your strongest ally or your most ruthless enemy. Money compounds in both directions. Neglect compounds stress. Preparation compounds freedom. The budget that ignores the future quietly steals from it. There is also a dangerous optimism here. People assume they will figure it out later. That income will increase. That motivation will magically appear. But habits harden with time. The longer you practice financial neglect, the more normal it feels. Then one day you wake up older, tired, and boxed in by decisions you barely remember making. Not because you were careless, but because your budget never acknowledged that life moves forward whether you prepare or not. Another hidden issue is budgeting in isolation. Money does not exist alone. It is tied to energy, time, and mental clarity. A budget that ignores burnout, decision fatigue, and stress will fail. When people are exhausted, they spend for relief. When they feel trapped, they spend for escape. When they feel unseen, they spend for validation. These are not weaknesses, they are signals. Ignoring them does not create control, it creates backlash. High-functioning people often fall hardest here. They assume logic will override emotion. It doesn't. Emotion always collects its debt. If your budget treats you like a machine, you will rebel like a human. Sustainable budgeting accounts for pleasure, rest, and meaning. Not excess, but intention. Without that, money becomes a battlefield instead of a tool. What makes these mistakes so destructive is that they don't feel dramatic. There is no single failure point. Just slow erosion, not confidence leaks out. Options shrink. Risk feels dangerous instead of strategic. Over time, you stop aiming higher, not because you can't, but because your financial system trained you not to. Staying poor is rarely about lack of effort. It is about repeating structures that quietly cap your potential. And the most dangerous structures are the ones that feel responsible on the surface while sabotaging you underneath. The fifth mistake is the most invisible one, and also the most lethal. Budgeting, without a reason that emotionally matters to you. Most people budget to avoid pain, not to build desire. They budget to stop feeling anxious, guilty, or out of control. That creates short-term relief, but no long-term fire. When the only purpose of your budget is not being broke, your motivation will always be weak. Pain avoidance never sustains discipline, meaning does money follows purpose. If your budget is not connected to a future you actually care about, it will always feel heavy. You will constantly negotiate with it. You will break it the moment life gets uncomfortable. A budget without vision becomes a chore, and chores are the first things we abandon when we're tired. People who break free financially are not more disciplined. They are more emotionally aligned. Their money decisions are tied to freedom, dignity, choice, and self-respect. They don't just track numbers, they protect a future identity. Every dollar has a story. Every sacrifice has a destination. That emotional clarity removes friction. Suddenly, saying no to small temptations doesn't feel like loss. It feels like loyalty to something bigger. Without this, budgeting becomes mechanical. You follow rules that don't inspire you. You copy systems that worked for someone else. You wonder why nothing sticks. The truth is simple. Your brain does not fight for numbers. It fights for meaning. When meaning is absent, comfort always wins. There is also a deeper layer here, self-worth. Many people subconsciously believe they don't deserve wealth, ease, or abundance, so they build budgets that keep them responsible, but never powerful. They aim for balance instead of progress, stability instead of growth. This is not humility. It is conditioning, and it keeps people financially small while appearing morally safe. A budget should expand who you believe you can become. It should create momentum, not just order. When your financial system reflects self-trust and ambition, behavior changes naturally. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this move me closer to the life I want?" That single shift rewires everything. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Poverty is not always about money. It's about identity reinforced by systems. If your budgeting mistakes teach you to think small, play defense, and prioritize comfort over construction, you will stay poor even if your income doubles. More money does not fix broken structure, it only exposes it. The good news is this: none of these mistakes are permanent. They are learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. The moment you stop treating budgeting as punishment and start using it as strategy, everything changes. Control replaces stress, clarity replaces confusion, direction replaces fear. You were never bad with money, you were just operating inside a system that was never designed to let you win. When you fix the system, wealth stops feeling distant, it starts feeling inevitable.